Hello, and thanks for joining me today on Geezers of Gear episode number 238. Today's podcast is brought to you by Mainlight, a national dry hire. Sorry, I'm having things going crazy on my screen here. Something is happening. Uh, Weird. I apologize for this. So, today's podcast is brought to you by Mainlight, a national dry hire rental provider specializing in supplying the latest lighting and stage equipment technology. Their extensive rental inventory includes moving lights, truss solutions, control consoles, LEDs, and an array of weather resistant IP65 rated fixtures, perfect for outdoor venues. Whether for theater productions, outdoor stadium events, or film TV broadcasts, Mainlight is the partner you trust with the gear you want. Committed to quality and reliability, Mainlight also provide a robust selection of used sales options to their clients. Each item is meticulously maintained, owned by Mainlight, and comes with a 60-day depot warranty, providing you with confidence in your purchase. Strategically located across the U.S., their 4 key locations include Teterboro, New Jersey, Wilmington, Delaware, Nashville, Tennessee, and Las Vegas, Nevada. Mainlight combined the vast resources of a national company with the attentive, personalized service of a local provider. Discover how Mainlight can equip your next event by visiting mainlight.com today and get a direct quote through their comprehensive online ordering platform. Today's podcast is also brought to you by Elation. Elation is pleased to offer the new Proteus Radius, a high-intensity beam effects fixture with solid-state phosphor-converted light engine for intense power at long distances. IP66 rated, the Proteus Radius delivers an ultra-narrow 0.9 degree beam, 0.9 degrees, that leaves a long-lasting impression across vast distances. Fast 360-degree movement on both axes, CMY color mix, gobos, prisms, and frost allowed designers to create an array of stunning aerial effects. Check out the Proteus Radius today at elationlighting.com. Well, I'm back. Episode number 238. And so it's bizarre that I'm having tech problems this morning because yesterday I recorded episode number 237 with Glenn, CEO and founder of AED in Europe. And it's weird. We got to the end, or we were getting near the end, I should say, probably 10, 15 minutes to go. And I noticed that my recording software was basically failing. And so it showed the little live or recording light is red and it's got a timer inside it. And it was frozen at 1 hour and 50 seconds, 1 hour and 50 seconds, and entirely frozen. So I have a Mac. If you put your mouse over it, you get the little spinning beach ball, meaning that that application is just completely frozen. So at this point, I'm still recording. I'm still talking, or I think I'm recording. I'm talking with Glenn and trying not to panic while I'm realizing that it's entirely possible that I'm no longer recording. It's also entirely possible that I lose the entire podcast that we've just recorded, which happened to be a really good one. And so we finally got to the end of our communication, and I said thanks, and couldn't stop the software, couldn't do anything, couldn't hang up on the call. And so I just had to hold down the power button on my Mac and shut everything down. And so I've contacted the company, the software company who I use to record our podcasts, and have submitted some files to them and stuff. So we're gonna hopefully be able to recover this, and hopefully by the time people hear the live, or not live, but the recorded episode number 238, you will have already heard 237, because 237 was a really good conversation, and I'd hope that everyone has the opportunity to hear it. And so if you know Glenn, very interesting guy, very colorful guy, very smart person, smart outside of business and outside of our industry. He's a pilot. He's just got all of this other knowledge involved, and he also owns a film and television studio. And so, of course, one of my favorite topics lately has been AI, and I talk with smart people and get their take on it and try to understand more about what people are thinking about its impact on our industry, etc. And so Glenn and I had this really cool conversation. And again, I hope you get to hear it, because it was fun. It took a very different approach, or a new concept, where we looked at it as, instead of AI replacing humans, AI was augmenting or supporting humans, especially in our industry. And so we used a couple of examples. We both agreed that we want AI and robots to handle things like life-saving surgery. So, if you've got, God forbid, cancer, or any sort of heart surgery or whatever, that AI and robots would be able to manage that surgery, because number one, they'd have more information than any surgeon possibly could. Two, they wouldn't make mistakes. They wouldn't slip or miss or accidentally cut the wrong thing or something. Not that surgeons do that very often, but you would take out that whole human mistake side of things. And unless, of course, their computer software failed like mine did for that episode, you're looking pretty good. So surgery was one. It was funny because Glenn said, I want AI and robots cooking my food. And then we got into a discussion about that. And what we finally agreed, both of us agreed on the fact that it would be great to have robots and AI basically prepping the food. So doing all the cutting and portioning and whatever you want to call it, but all the preparation, and then the actual art, or the artistry of actually cooking and combining ingredients and creating flavor, would come from a knowledgeable and experienced chef. And it's funny because that carries over to our industry as well. You're getting the nuance and art from the artist, and you're getting sort of the tedious, repeated labor side of the project from AI and from robots. And, I think the same goes in our industry, the simple and mundane, repetitive tasks, the coding side of things, where a programmer is sitting at a desk putting in the same lines of code that he's had to do for every show that he does, or she. But at the end, the artist is the one creating the art. It's not AI creating the art. AI is just supporting the art. And so that's hopefully the direction that common sense takes us in all things. That AI supports humans. It doesn't make an effort to replace humans. But there's some fear involved in all of this as well. I'm a realist, and I'm listening to all sides of this. I spend a lot of time listening to guests on Joe Rogan, because Joe Rogan gets really smart guests on the topic of AI. He's had the founder or the CEO of ChatGPT or OpenAI has been on multiple times, or at least once. I heard him once, anyways. He gets Elon Musk on quite often. He had Ray Kurzweil on, and they talk a lot about, as AI becomes sentient and more human-like, it is going to sort of leapfrog, jump over humans, because it's just going to be smarter than humans. And I don't know. None of us really know. Maybe some people sitting at the top of Google or OpenAI, or maybe Elon Musk knows. But Elon Musk seems to be more respectful, fearful, careful with this technology than most really smart people are. And he has rang the sort of emergency bell a few times on this. So we'll see. I do think that this is probably one area where, God forbid, we get the government involved, and hopefully without any incentives to, build their stock portfolios or whatever, they're going to make good decisions for the American people and for the people of the world on, just some legislation that stops AI from controlling the world. But anyways, so that was an interesting conversation. And again, I apologize anytime our tech fails. It's only happened, I think, 3 times in the entire history of the podcast, 3 or 4 times maybe. And so I hope that we were able to recover this podcast. If not, I might even ask Glenn to do it again because it was such a great conversation. And I also want to help promote the amazing companies and brands that Glenn is building at AED. So today we have one of my favorite people, another one. I say this about so many people, but I love this guy, David Milley. We had back on the podcast, or we had on the podcast, episode 14 in 2019, and he's back on again today. I had to peel him away from his incredibly busy schedule of retirement. So you may or may not know, David sold his lighting business. If you're younger and new to this industry, or maybe you're in Europe or something. So David Milley had a company called TLS Inc. And it was based in Alabama. He sold that business to Four Wall back in 2012, stayed on to work with the company for a few years before kind of taking a different turn in life. And David is now retired. He manages some real estate, spends time renovating his house that he lives in with his wife, DeAnn. And they both do some community theater work. David's consulted on a few lighting projects, I think. And he and DeAnn went through some boats. They had that sort of 2-foot-itis where they bought a small one and got a little bit bigger a few times, I think. And they traveled a whole bunch. And then I think what happened is the hurricane hit. He can tell us a little more about this, but I think the hurricane hit and scared the hell out of them, and they moved back inland, sold their boats, and they've become landlubbers again. But David tells me that now his main source of income is basically winning money from his buddies at golf. And so that doesn't surprise me. He was an avid golfer the last time I saw him. I think the last time I saw him was probably the last time I played golf with him at one of the LDI events, and that had to be more than 10 years ago, probably. Oh my God, time moves so fast. It's probably 15 years ago. I don't know. But anyways, I would love to welcome back David Milley. Hello, David.
Hello, Marcel.
Good morning.
You too.
So, where are you in the world now? I don't know. Like, I know you were on the
Oh,
water.
I'm in Huntsville, Alabama.
Oh, you're back in Huntsville.
I spent back in Huntsville 2.5 years ago. We got hit by a hurricane called Sally in Orange Beach, and you know, my house was tore up, my cars were flooded, rental properties were demolished. It was a mess. So rather than go through that again, we put Humpty Dumpty back together and moved back up north where we only have tornadoes and flooding. So it's a little bit
Yeah,
different. But that
yeah,
that through a hurricane, that's scary stuff. You being in Florida, you probably know
yeah.
what I mean.
I do. And this is going to sound really terrible, so I'm putting a disclaimer on what I'm about to say, but Florida has escaped a lot of hurricanes recently. It's been actually really quiet since like maybe 2005, 6, something like that is the last one that really I think caused a massive impact in South Florida where I live. And so meanwhile, we've had this COVID thing, and property values are going through the roof because people are selling, $2.5 million condos that are like 1,000 square feet in New York, bringing that cash down here, buying a house on the waterfront, going, man, why did I
Hmm.
wait so long to do this? And they haven't seen a storm yet. So,
Wait till they get the property tax bill and their insurance bill. Good grief. That
well,
being on the water where I was in Orange Beach, we were 2 miles from Florida line, the Alabama
yeah,
Florida line. And I paid more for insurance insurance there, then I pay for, you know, insurance, uh, property tax, all my utilities,
Yep.
everything, HOA, just my insurance down there. It was crazy.
Well, yeah, I mean, like the keys, for example, like the to insure a house and the keys, a lot of people just self-insure because it's so expensive to get insurance if you're because you're basically below sea level at a lot of places in the keys. And so you're
Right.
gonna flood. Like you are gonna get some water. And so insurance is just crazy in some parts of the keys, in some houses, and it depends on your survey or whatever it is. But yeah, I mean, typically what used to happen, I've been here since 1991, and what used to happen, so my first year here was Hurricane Andrew. And so we were sort of welcome to Florida properly, the worst storm I
That
think
was
that ever.
Miami area, correct?
It was, yeah.
That
And
I remember.
we actually had police knock on our door because we lived on the intercoastal and in an apartment, and they knocked on our door and said, "I'm sorry, you have to evacuate." And we were like, "What the hell does that mean?" We didn't know what was going on. Like we were landlubbers moving down here to Florida, and but what would happen is every time there was a storm, there was this exodus of all these northerners, New Yorkers, and people from the north somewhere. Would just be like, hell with this shit. I'm out of here. I ain't putting up with this stuff. No way.
And
And
our house was on stilts, so they knew that it was going to have storm surge.
yeah,
Uh, but we sat in the stairway for, like 10 hours. The water was coming up the stairs and the roof was going off on top. I mean, it was pretty scary. Never would I stay in a hurricane again. I would evacuate. We just didn't have a chance to do this one. Nobody in our neighborhood did. Everybody thought it was going through Biloxi, and it just did a 90-degree turn and then just sat on us. It
yeah.
was like it was punishing Orange Beach or something.
You know Jim Fuller, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So Jim Fuller, before he came to work for us at Martin, Jim Fuller was our customer. He was at UF, and we did the Gator Growl, and we were doing some other stuff with him. But so, anyways, Hurricane Andrew, Jim calls me up. He lives in Gainesville, and he calls me up and he says, "Hey, I'm coming down for the hurricane." And I'm like, "What?" And he goes, "Yeah, my parents aren't in their house. They have a house in I can't remember if it was Homestead or Cutler Ridge where his parents had a house." Um, and I'm like, "What the hell are you doing coming down here? Like we're being told to go that way, so I'm going to Orlando." And he's like, "Nah, it's not going to be that bad." And you know, I don't think it was Andrew though. It had to be a different storm because it wasn't in 1992. This was a bit later. So, anyways, whatever storm it was, so he comes down, and the storm turned sort of at the last minute, and he was basically in it, in a big way. And it was him and his wife and I think his new baby, and they ended up in a closet because the roof blew off, and they were huddled up in a closet in this house, and they left a nice safe place that everybody was evacuating to and came right into sort of the eye of the storm, and it was just lunacy. But I think sometimes in Florida that happens. We get this complacency where people have hurricane parties and they're like, it's no big deal. I've been through 10 of these. Maybe the 11th one gets you real good. Uh, it's
Well, you've been lucky, I tell you.
yeah,
What we went through was not fun, so
yeah,
it was a
yeah,
mess.
yeah, yeah.
All right.
We had a little technical glitch with David's headphones there. So David's new to the Apple AirPods. Welcome to the clan, David. I actually just had to get
Well,
a
thank
new
you, thank
I
you.
I just had to get a new pair. If someone would have told me that $200 freaking earphones were disposable, like you basically just had to throw them away every few years and get a new pair, I'd be like, you got to be out of your mind. But that's exactly what you have to do. They wear out and get lousy, and mine were making weird noises and stuff. So yeah, no
Well,
wonder
these
Apple's
are
a
pretty
$2 trillion
but
company.
anyway, I think we got it figured out. I've pushed enough buttons here, so anyway.
That's good.
Well, tell me how your son's doing. You sent him to England to race cars, and I haven't seen many updates lately.
Well, because he came back, he's been back here since I think November, end of November, he came back. And he's been doing a bunch of coaching drivers at different tracks and on different series and stuff. He's been even coaching sim drivers. So if you ever want to become a race car driver, you could just get one of those simulator setups and Jeremy will come and coach you. But he actually just got back to England today. He's racing the first race of the brand new 2024 season that starts this weekend at Silverstone. And so he just landed this morning, and he's at the race shop with the team right now, getting the car prepped, and he's on track tomorrow for testing. Excuse me.
Well, far out. Far out.
Yeah. So I'll probably end up posting the link on Facebook or something to watch the races this weekend. They tend to be pretty early because it's in England, right? So it's 5 hours later there. But I appreciate you asking. He's doing well. We're somewhere between all the way in and all the way out. You know, it's his dream and it's all he ever wants to do. But unfortunately, it's a big money game these days. So, you know, it's as you step up the ladder, the money just gets more and more ridiculous. And it didn't used to be that way. It's just that now there's so many billionaires in the world that they jump the queue and say, I'll give you $5 million instead of, you know, you having to pay my driver, I'll pay you. And so that eliminates opportunities for drivers, whether they're better or not. It doesn't even matter. So it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. So yeah, we already got into the hurricanes, which I expected we'd be talking about because you were one of those guys like the New Yorkers and stuff that I was just talking about who ran back inland, and I don't blame you. I mean, I don't live on the coast. I live a half hour inland.
Well, I have some property down there, and what we did after, as part of buying it was to make sure we were out of the wind and flood zone insurance wise. So there's a
Yeah.
road. One side of the road is in the flood zone, the other side of the road is not, and bought a rental property there. So it made a big difference insurance wise, and it's just right across the street from each other.
Oh,
So
really?
well, and you add that up over 10 years, it's a lot of money difference that goes in your pocket instead of the insurance company.
Yeah.
So
So is that a rental property or do you actually go
it,
there and spend time?
no, it's a triple net. It's a paint store, and we're just a landlord in it.
Oh, okay. It's a
So
building. It's not a house.
oh,
I
it's
just
yeah,
assumed it was
commercial
residential. Oh, okay.
commercial building.
Oh, cool.
Where I put my
So,
money that Four Wall gave me when they bought me out, and have some income.
yeah, good for you. Good for you. You're one
Sounds
of
like
the
Four Wall's doing great guns these days.
They are. Yeah, four wall the big keep getting bigger, that's for sure. And Canon again is doing really really well with Mainlight, who actually Mainlight remarkably Mainlight and Mike Cannon are the sponsor for today's podcast. So yeah,
Well,
they're
thank
doing
you, Mike
incredibly well.
Cannon.
Yeah, yeah. No, he's doing really well. We do a lot of business together, and he's one of the guys that I appreciate a lot in this industry and have a lot of respect for. I have a lot of time for that guy. He's a smart dude. He's got those the Canon genes.
Yes, he does. He
Yeah,
does.
yeah,
His son, I think, is going to Purdue. That just played UConn. He's a big basketball fan.
yeah, yeah. That's funny. That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Well, I'm pretty sure he goes to Purdue. I mean, that's something you could ask him. But I see it. We're Facebook friends. That's how I stay in touch with most people these days. And
Yeah, we
he's at
all
all
do.
the basketball games, and he's always doing Purdue basketball. So, like I said, they did pretty good against UConn. Alabama did a little bit better. I think 1 point better.
Yeah, interesting.
UConn, what an awesome team. Good grief.
I can't say I follow it. I know nothing about it whatsoever. David, we've given up on hearing your microphone out of your headphones because it's gone again. So don't worry about it. We can hear you just fine through the phone. So let's not stress about that one.
Okay.
It's no
Wonder
big
what
deal.
happened.
I don't know. So for those of you who have no idea or just entered the industry or whatever, uh, just to kind of reiterate here, you sold your business back in 2012, what we were just talking about, to Four Wall, and
Correct.
uh, sadly, your wife passed away shortly after in 2014. You kind of changed directions after that, and Canon let you retire, and not too long after that, then you met your current wife, DeAnn, who I've
Yeah,
unfortunately
correct.
not been able to meet, and I feel like I know her because I've been following all of your posts and hers on Facebook and stuff. But it looks like you guys have built a pretty cool life together, and yeah,
I got real lucky.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's incredible when life is short when it comes to those types of long-term relationships, and the fact that you can find, two great ones like that is pretty cool. So, congratulations. And
Well, thank you. Like I said, I do feel very lucky and fortunate that we ran into each other at the time. It's a timing thing in a life, and you put two people together and the timing's right. I mean, it worked out very well for both of us. We're
yeah,
real happy, and we've done a lot of traveling together. And if you can travel with somebody in an RV for a month, then you have compatibility, and we do. We
well,
get
and you did
along
the
together a
land
lot.
and water RVs, right? Like you did the.
Well, when like I said, my previous wife passed away, I didn't want to bring the new woman in my life into that situation. So I said, well, look, let's sell this house and let's go to the beach, and that's what we did. And we went and got a big boat, and we traveled around the Gulf, went to New Orleans and Tampa, and just played around. We actually came from Orange Beach all the way up to Tennessee Tom Bigby to Huntsville.
Oh wow,
It was an 8 day trip up to Tennessee Tom Bigby, which is uh, amazing that you can go from there, 400 miles inland.
that's crazy.
Um, it is, and we were in a pretty big boat, but there's barges all over the place, and there's a lot of books that tell you what to look for and how to navigate it. We went to boating school and navigation school, so I mean, did it properly and safely. Um, 8 days here, spent about a week, 2 weeks here, and then like 8 days back. Went through 17 locks,
Wow.
up 600 feet. So the first lock was testy because DeAnn had never done it, and I'm driving. She's got to hook us to about a bollard, throw the rope around it, and tie us off to the side, and the bollard floats. The first one was testy, but we watched it on YouTube several times on what she's supposed to do,
Yeah.
and she pulled it off, and yay, that was our big panic attack that didn't turn into a panic. So it
Yeah.
worked out fine.
Well, and your
But
relationship somehow survived that because I remember even just docking incidents where it's like, just throw them the line. Or, one of the funniest ones with my ex wife was we had run into a pretty significant situation. So I was pulling up onto a sandbar in, I think it was in Miami somewhere, and it was just a sandbar where we would always go up and just stick the anchor in the ground and sit there in 3 or 4 feet of water, have a couple beers, put some rafts out or whatever. It was nice. But the current was really nasty. It was quite windy and it was crowded. And so it was pretty stressful, and I'm dealing with all of this stuff. I'm going against the current, trying not to run over anybody who's already in the water with their beers or hit any boats. And my ex-wife Barb, her parents decide at some point, because Barb tells them, "Okay, you guys can go ahead and jump off now. We're in shallow." And I'm still, my engines are running and I'm still
oh
moving,
no,
and so they jump off the boat and immediately get caught up in the current. And so now it's a situation. Like, we've got a real situation. And I'm like, she goes, "What do I do? What do I do?" And I said, "Throw them a throw cushion." So, line wrapped around it and everything, she throws the whole throw cushion. And I just looked at her and I'm like, "Do you not see anything wrong with this?" And she goes, "What? I threw it to them." And I said, "But where's the rope?" "Barb, where's the other end of the line? How are we going to pull them back to the boat? You've thrown the entire line to them." And she's like, "Oh, do you have another one?" And I said, "No, I only have one throw cushion." So now I had to jump off the boat. And, well, I think I dropped anchor wherever I was. jumped off the boat, swam to them because I'm a good swimmer, and brought them back to the boat. And I was just furious. I mean, that was probably the beginning of
If
the
you
end for us.
if you have a boat, you have those situations. Just it's just part of boating. You just gotta be as careful as you can be. That's for sure.
I take it
We had
really
certain
seriously, as I'm sure you do. I take it
well,
really seriously. Like
nobody
your
does
lives
any.
are in my hand, in my
You know,
hands.
I've had my nephews and nieces and stuff, and they want to carry on and get drunk and stupid, and they said you can do all that, but only when I allow it.
Yeah,
You know, you got to sit down and you can't walk around. You can't bother. We communicate, and they say, well, I want to help. I want to help. Your help is to sit there and get out of the way.
yeah,
And when it's time, we'll let you know. And the captain's got to be the captain, you
yeah,
know, because at the end of the day, the buck stops there, right? And if there's
yeah.
damage done, then he's the one responsible, and you can't take some stuff back ever. It's just
What
it
and
goes
and
with
you
it.
see it
So
you see it so often here where, just friends are out for a nice weekend boat ride in Fort Lauderdale on their brand new $1 million, five Yamaha 300s or Merc 300s on the back of it or whatever. Guy doesn't know what he's doing. He takes them out on the ocean
doesn't
going
know.
70 miles an hour on a fishing boat or something. And bad things happen and people die. And it's really, really sad to see that. Every time I see it, it's like, boats don't have brakes like cars do. So
No,
bad
they do
things can
not. No,
happen.
they do not.
Yeah.
Well, like I mentioned earlier, we together we took three boating classes: navigation, safety, uh, just all the how to park a boat, and then we went out and practiced all this stuff before we
Yeah.
went anywhere.
Uh,
And I've been in boats all my life, but not a big boat. Big
yeah.
boat's
It's
different than a
very
little boat,
different. Yeah.
and it kind of I messed up a few times, and I still I could write them down on a piece of paper what I did wrong and what I would do in the future differently.
Yeah.
Mostly navigation things.
Yeah.
Going on the wrong side of a buoy, whew,
I've done it.
that's not
Well, how about,
everybody's done it.
running a 36-foot cabin cruiser running it aground in the Keys, even though you're not supposed to be outside the channel, but it was like, oh, there's a pod of dolphins over there. We had to go see them. And I'm outside the
I hear
channel
you.
and run the boat into the ground, right?
I, I tore a transmission up in one of my engines. It was about a $50,000
Ugh,
hit. Uh,
ouch.
well, luckily, insurance paid for some of it, but the same thing. That was not intended. The current got me, pushed me where I wasn't supposed to be, trying to pull into a marina. I was in Tampa Bay,
Yeah.
and just made a mistake.
Yeah. So,
Looking back, it was the captain's problem. It was my
yeah.
my mistake.
Speaking of marinas, one of my other situations involving my ex-wife, we were in the Keys and we were pulling up. I had a slip booked at I forget which marina in the Keys, but um, oh, it was the Isla Morada marina with the tiki bar and stuff. I don't know if you've spent any time down in the Keys, but it was a great marina, and but it had like 75, 80-foot boats there, and I had a 36-foot boat. And so I'm pulling it in. It's probably about 7 o'clock at night. So all the old captains are all standing out on the dock drinking their wine or whatever with their wives and their friends or whatever. And so now I've got a bunch of geniuses telling me what I'm doing wrong. And I've got this tall boat, a cabin cruiser tall boat. You know the problem here. So the tide is coming in and the wind is blowing out. And I've got to go into the dock. I think I was against the wind but with the current or something. And it was the hardest docking I've ever done. And I've got three people on the boat telling me what I'm doing wrong, and I've got 20 people on the dock telling me what I'm doing wrong. And finally I said, everyone just shut the F up and let me dock this boat. And I got it docked, and I tied it, jumped off the boat, walked straight up to the tiki bar and did like a double shot of something and just said, enough, man. I've had enough. You know who else is doing it right now, David? Is Do you know Matt Klauser?
Matt Clouser.
He had a nice little company in Atlanta called Active Lighting and Design. Uh,
Seems like I've heard that name. I don't know. It's been
he
a
was a
while.
high.
Remember,
He
I've
was
been
a,
out
he
of
was always a high end dealer in Atlanta, and he would have been a real small company as you were a pretty big company. And anyways, I helped him sell his company a couple years ago, and his life, you know, goal or plan or dream or whatever was to go out and buy a sailboat and sail around the world. And so he bought like I think it's like a 50-foot cat, and him and his very young wife, who he had just married, remarried. Uh, I think she's from Guatemala or Nicaragua or something, but beautiful young lady. So they decide they're going to sail around the world. They buy this boat. They come to Fort Lauderdale and close on the boat. They took all the captain, classes and stuff that they possibly could. They went to the Bahamas from Fort Lauderdale, and they sailed around the Bahamas a little bit. It really tested their relationship, as it can. But you're running into things they didn't teach you in boating class, and now you're in real life, and you're on the Atlantic Ocean or in the Caribbean. Bad things can happen very quickly, and it's all different than what you expected. And so, I mean, they spent about, I don't know, probably 3 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks of what was supposed to be like a 12-month journey or something. They spent 3 or 4 weeks in the Bahamas, and then I think they brought the boat back to Fort Lauderdale and flew back home, and they're back at their house in Costa Rica or wherever it is that they live now.
They sell the boat.
No, no, I don't know that whether or not they're still going to go ahead and try and do their plans, but he had it all planned out. He was going to do this, and I'm not putting him down. I always said that's a pretty momentous plan that you've got there. But he was, he had it all planned out. He was going to book, he was going to hire captains for the long trips, and you know, I just think the reality is so much more
Oh,
challenging.
you.
And we're back again. These retired people, it's retired people and their electronics. Like they don't have the big computer screens and stuff anymore.
I don't have people to set it up for me and stand there and make sure I don't screw it up. So
Well,
pushing the wrong.
if you ever invite me to come over and visit, I'll come over and visit and I'll help you set up your stuff and we can do a proper podcast. That'd be fun. Me and you and Jonathan. Get Jonathan back on.
Well, that funny you say that. He is in Nashville today.
Oh, is he really?
We were thinking about when he lands to run up there, maybe have dinner with him tonight. So,
Oh, that's fun.
well, he hadn't updated his arrival stuff, but either Thursday or Friday he'd be there, and today's the day. So anyway, I don't know what he came over for, but I think they're working on his boat and pulling it
Yeah.
out of the water and repainting it and stuff. So he said it's time to travel while the boat's being worked on.
That's another thing that we boating people know all about is, boats need work, unfortunately.
I tell you what, it was too expensive for me. I gave up on it. Said,
Yeah.
let's do something cheaper. RVing is a lot cheaper, by the way.
Yeah. So do you still do that? Do you guys still travel around a bunch?
Well, we've taken RV to California or Nevada like four times, and my brother just borrowed my RV to go to Illinois for the eclipse.
Oh,
So yeah, we use it quite a lot. We go to Orange Beach in it a lot. Own some RV lots down there that we rent out most of the time. Um, it's very convenient, very economical, and we know it's when it's there, and we can always book it when we need it, and it's close to all the restaurants that we really enjoy. So
yeah.
yeah, we do use it.
Well, if you want to get adventurous, drive on up to Western Canada this summer, and you can park it in my driveway, and I'll show you around.
Is that where you are now?
No, I'm in Florida, but I spend the summers now in up near Banff in Canada.
Too hot in Fort Lauderdale.
No, it's great here, but it's just that, once my son was old enough and didn't need me around 24/7, it was like, what am I doing sitting here in South Florida when I could be at my house in the mountains in Canada, enjoying. I love it up there. Like I love the mountains. I love the view. I love the people. I love, hiking and biking and just all that that offers, right? So sort of the
Right,
best of
right.
both worlds. You get beautiful weather here in the winter in Florida, and very unknown or adventurous weather in Canada in the summer. Like you could get snow in June, you just don't know. But
Well, you got the best of both worlds there, Marcel.
yes, sir. So
And with all this technology that works, you can do what you do just about anywhere.
yeah. Speaking of technology, so in my little intro that I did, I was talking about the podcast that I recorded yesterday with you probably don't know him, but Glenn Rogaman owns a company in Europe called AED, and over the past 12, 15 years, AED has really grown to be, they're sort of part main light, part act entertainment or act lighting, part like they're part distributor, part cross rental company. Um, they do leasing for their customers. Like they're a big conglomerate of businesses really. And Glenn's just a really smart business guy that's very well funded. He's got a helicopter company. He's got a big Ferrari collection. He's just a neat guy and he's really smart. Uh, but we had a conversation about AI and or IE as he calls it, which is kind of funny because he's from Belgium and it's pronounced IE in Belgium because A is I and I is E. So it's IE. He kept talking about IE, and I'm like, what the hell is this guy talking about? But it was AI. But one of the things that we discussed, and I mentioned this, I think, in my intro as well, is our industry is pretty freaked out about, obviously for good reason, being replaced by AI. Lighting designers, lighting programmers being replaced by AI. And so the conversation we had is that one direction I see this all going is that common sense prevails and AI remains an augmentation to humans, not a replacement for humans, a support to humans, not a replacement for humans. So, a few examples like if you were going in today or tomorrow or next week, and God forbid, I shouldn't even bring this up, but let's say you had to go in for life saving surgery. Would you rather that be done by an AI robot or by a human?
You're asking me.
Yeah.
Uh, right now, a human, but it, probably in the future, like these autonomous driving cars are probably safer than humans because they pay attention better. In the future, and test it on other people before you come see me to chop me up. But I would say the AI would definitely be better.
Yeah. Well,
Wouldn't you?
no. Yes,
No?
absolutely. No, no. I would say that if AI was available next week for me to go have surgery by robot, I would rather have a robot than a human. Because if you think about it on the surface, a human, and I'm not putting down surgeons, they're incredible. I've had a couple surgeries and thank God for surgeons, but a human has experience of however many books he's read and however many surgeries he's done. So let's call it 500 surgeries or 1,000 surgeries. Let's put a nice round number on it. This surgeon that's working on you to save your life has done 1,000 surgeries. He's got that information all in his brain along with the books that he learned in school. AI has a million or 10 million or 100 million surgeries and every book on earth on that topic in its brain, and it doesn't have shaky hands. It hasn't had an argument with his wife an hour ago on the phone because he couldn't talk to her because he had to go into a surgery, or he hasn't got a hangover from getting drunk at his brother's birthday party last night or whatever, right?
Sure.
AI to me is much more stable and predictable in that role. And
Well,
so
I just agreed with you on that, but I don't think I'm ready tomorrow to do that. Let AI, you know, do
practice a
surgery on
bit.
like a
Yeah.
couple hundred people, and I say, okay, now I think I'm ready.
Yeah.
This is all happening really, really fast.
You know John Wiseman, right?
Oh, sure.
So a couple of years ago, John, and I'm sure you wouldn't mind me talking about it, but John was diagnosed with a type of cancer, and I don't remember if it was prostate or but something bad. And he was a little bit freaked out and went to some really smart people and was referred to someone who actually happened to be very close to him, very close to where he lived. And I believe the doctor was in Reno or something. And it was this cutting edge new robotic surgery. And it had, very good track record so far. Long story short, he did it. It was incredible. The time to heal was incredible, and he's completely free of cancer and recommends it highly. He said I would do it again in a minute if I had the same problem or a similar problem and that were presented to me. So that's part one. Part two, we started talking about, because Glenn said, so surgery, if I had to go for surgery, I want a robot and AI performing my surgery. Number two, he said, I want AI cooking my food at a restaurant. And I said, no, 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 no. Hold on a second. Because, I should back up a bit. He's got this interesting approach in that he owns a television and movie studio, film studio in over there. AED Studios is quite beautiful. He bought it in 2012 and has turned it. I think it's a 500,000 square feet or something, and it's a beautiful studio. And so he said, you can't take away the art from movies. Otherwise, all movies, basically, it's going to go like this. AI will make movies get so good so that everything's as good as, I think he said, Top Gun Maverick. Everything's that good. But then it'll just stay flat forever because it's all perfect. Everything's perfect and it's pretty much vanilla. It's become vanilla. So he brought up food, and I said the same thing would happen with food. It would be exactly the same every time you eat it, just like a Big Mac from McDonald's. You expect that from McDonald's. But if I'm ordering a $75 entree at a restaurant, I want nuance. I want the chef's attitude and passion in that food. I don't want it made by a machine so that it's exactly the same every time, right? I want little differences, little uniqueness to it or whatever, right? And so we finally came to the conclusion that AI should do the prep on food, but the actual combining of ingredients and the chef part should be done by a chef. So the artist does the art and AI does the grunt work, basically. Does that ring a
That
bell
does
with
make
you?
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that does make sense.
Have you paid any attention to
Yeah.
this whole AI topic?
Well, you see all this stuff going on in Nashville and Tennessee where songwriters uh, do not want AI used for writing songs, and it takes what they do away,
Yeah.
and that's how they make their money. Um, and I'm on Chrome or Microsoft something, and it's what do they call it? Copilot, and I can ask it all these questions. It's like a souped up Siri,
Yeah.
and to write a paragraph about whatever, and it's just amazing. Tell me a joke that lighting people would laugh at, and it does a light bulb joke or something. And
Yeah.
how does it know all this stuff?
Yeah.
I see most of what I've seen so far is silliness that I can do, but I see how the application for, business acumen and how to be efficient and how to analyze costs and things like that. It's staggering what it could do.
Well, David,
Um,
your rental business, your real estate rental business or whatever, you don't have to. I hope your lawyer ain't listening, but you don't got to pay your lawyer to write a simple rental agreement. AI can write that rental agreement very
oh,
quickly, very
sure.
efficiently, very effectively, with loads and loads of information behind it. Granted, it's not a it AI isn't a lawyer, and it'll tell you somewhere some sort of a disclaimer. You might want to have your lawyer look over this or whatever, but AI knows that it's way better than any agreement your lawyer is going to draw up for
Well,
you.
well, the lawyer's going to, lawyer.com forms and printing out the form and editing two paragraphs and it said, here, I worked on this hard. You owe me,
Two
two
hours.
hours at $300 an hour or something,
Exactly.
right?
No, exactly.
It's a form,
It's
you
copy
know,
and
fill in the
pasted.
blank.
Yeah. But I've had some really good luck with that, with things like legal agreements or business plans. Like I'm thinking about this idea because now you can. There's AI tools now that are very simple already to use as a human. So I can talk to it just like I'm talking to you right now, and I can say, "Here's what I'm thinking about putting together." And I want you to tell me if that's a good idea. Do you think I could be successful with it? If I do it, what color should the logo be? How should I set up the business? How many employees should I have? Should I hire a marketing person first or a salesperson? You can just sit there and talk to it for 30 minutes just like that, and then it'll think for about 2 minutes and it'll spit out this unbelievable business plan for you, and you'll read it going,
Which
wow.
which service are you using?
Well, that's just Chat GPT, but it's the paid one. So
Okay.
if you use, it's only $20 a month, but if you use the paid Chat GPT, it's a lot more powerful. And like there's something called DALL-E, DALL dash E, and that actually does graphics. And so, my girlfriend was asking me one day, well, why are you always talking to that Chat GPT thing? What does it actually do? What can it do? I can't believe it does all that stuff. And I said, so let me show you something. And I just, in my head, I said, okay, make me a picture of, and I want it animated. Make me an animated picture. And you could say an animated picture in the style of Walt Disney or in the style of whatever. But make me an animated picture of a cow riding a bicycle with a frying pan in one hand and a bunny rabbit on his head. And there was something else. I just put a bunch of stuff together in this ridiculous picture. And within a minute or two, I had a picture of a cow riding a bicycle with a bunny rabbit on his head or her head. No, it was a 100-year-old woman riding a bicycle. That's what it was. It wasn't a cow. It was a 100-year-old woman with a hat and a bunny on top of the hat and a frying pan in one hand and riding the bicycle with the other hand. It was crazy. It was just insane. And she looked at it and she goes, "Where did it get that image?" And I said, "It created it." And it's hard to fathom. Like it's hard to just build this all in your head and go, "What's going on here?" You know?
It's amazing. You know what little I've seen it do, but if you watch any of these finance things, programs on TV like CNBC, that's just that's it's what's dominating all their discussions right now.
Yeah,
Um,
picking your stocks and stuff.
oh, well, there was a company, and I can't remember the name of the guy, but his they ask you like 10 questions, and you tell him the answer to your 10 questions, and AI designs your portfolio for you, and tells you when to get in and get out, or just does it for you
Yeah.
based on your risk, the risk that you want to take in certain things.
Well, and
Good
your
grief! I
age
mean,
and what your
well, all
net
those
worth
things, the
is and
risk.
all of those things. Yeah. And but guess what? I mean, could you imagine being an analyst right now? Like an analyst is just going to go, look at the company, review the company. If they're high end enough, they might have a conversation with the C suite at that company or whatever. But, to me, AI is just going to run over you. It's got access to so much more information so quickly. Speed is the other thing that AI just wins.
You're talking about lighting designers. I mean, if you're given a package, here's the bill of materials. Put a lighting show together. Cabling's no issue. Trussing's no issue, and it'll come up with an amazing thing, and then program it to go with this song and do it quickly because I don't have a lot of time to mess around. We would
That's the
spend
slippery slope, though.
hundreds and hundreds of hours programming,
Yeah.
and and and, and then they would do the song a different way that night.
Yeah. I talk
So
to obviously lots and lots of lighting people, lighting designers, programmers, just incredible and talented artists, right? And that's sort of where it crosses into the slippery slope area. Everyone wants AI to like design to lay out your cable, your I don't know what all the different functions are because I've never actually done it, but the tedious work, the lines of code in your programming where you're just doing stuff over and over again that you have to do every time, but it's got nothing to do with the art, right? to support you, to act as an assistant to you, but not to just take over your job. Like that's where everyone wants it to go. What I don't agree with is, like you were saying, writers are losing their minds in Nashville. Guess what? I mean, the you can't put the genie back in the bottle. It ain't gonna happen. So
No.
you got to find a way to either you get on the bus and find a good seat, or you're going to get run over by the bus because the bus is coming. You can't stop the bus. So I do think there needs to be legislation. I do think that there needs to be, we don't want these AI things to become smarter than us too quickly, and to like, you can get into some real voodoo kind of woo stuff where it's like, who's the boss, right? Is the human the boss, or is the computer the boss? And as these things become more and more sentient, and smarter, and the models get bigger and they have more information stored, it gets scary.
Well, I
Definitely gets
mean, you
scary.
think about a songwriter, you tell it to write me a country song with a pickup truck, an ex-girlfriend,
A
a
dog.
boot,
You
a
need a dog.
guitar, a dog, sunshine, shooting a rabbit, and it'll come back with an amazing song. And that's how the songwriters of the past used to do it. They just put a bunch of topics together, but it'll do it in a couple of minutes, where they spent maybe two bottles of Jack, a six pack of beer, in a month to do it.
Yeah. Well,
So
and then
what a difference.
here's the question though: who gets the publishing rights?
I don't know, but there's a bunch of this discussion going on in the Tennessee legislature right now trying to sort this stuff out. I think CMT, country radio, I mean country museum people are working on what do you do with it?
Yeah,
So
just like, I don't know if you remember the whole Napster thing, but do you? Do you remember Napster?
that was the song program.
Yeah, it was
Is
the
that right?
first. It was the first like real streaming thing where you could go get music from, and it
That's
was
right.
basically stealing music, because it was taking copies of these songs and making them available to everyone, and led by Lars from Metallica, there was this big push to pretty much throw people in jail and fine people and sue people and all this stuff, to just block. You can't stream music. Streaming is illegal. We're blocking it. And time went on to prove that you can't stop technology. You just can't. That can't be the solution, stopping it. What you need to do is harness it. You need to apply some rules and legislature and safety protocol to it. And that's what happened with streaming music. Along came Apple and said, we're just going to charge people. And we think that because we're giving them this great device that they can put those songs onto, we're going to create a market to be able to charge people for the music. And then we're going to share that revenue, obviously, with the artists. And that was such a better model. And artists would tell you, if they could, they'd go back to CDs because they made a lot more money selling CDs than they do streaming songs. But you can't. Again, we've moved past that. It's different.
Well, it used to be the record companies drove the production industry. I mean, the touring was run by the record companies to sell records, and
Yeah.
and then they've evaporated. They don't have control of any of that
No.
anymore.
No.
It's the artist and selling tickets and doing it that way.
Well, because the money dropped
Changed
out of
everything.
the.
And that's right. And there was a period of time. It's like we don't know what the next step's going to be, and I think investment in live events suffered from it for a while we were trying to figure out what was the next step. And
Yeah.
it was sell tickets. And
Yeah.
that's where it's come back to. So
In a big way.
go
Like
see
right
live
now,
events. You,
right now, are you paying attention to what's going on in the touring world now compared to where it was when you were in it?
well, I mean, I hear all about Taylor Swift. That's amazing. Um,
Didn't you
and,
work
and,
with
and it
her in the
seems
early
like
days?
concert business. We did. We had her as the opening act for Brad Paisley she had we were the first time I saw her was in Chattanooga. We rented the Civic Center up there to do rehearsals. So it was Kelly Pickler. It was Taylor Swift opening for Brad Paisley. So Pickler got up by herself, did her few songs, and then Taylor came on with her boots, her little parachute dress, and a guitar by herself in an empty room, you know, a 10,000 seat room empty, and she owned the building. I mean, she had something, and you know what that something I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That you don't see very often. I look in my past like Johnny Cash would walk in the room and did the same kind of charisma,
Yeah.
and it was not long when people were coming to see Taylor Swift, not Brad.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that
So
seems to have worked out
just
okay.
and you remember you spoke of Jonathan. Jonathan's meeting was he did the design for Taylor's first solo tour, headline tour,
Yeah.
and did the lighting design and the video content. Um, and then you know, Jonathan tells a story. He only wants to do it once with somebody. He wanted to move on, and you know, gosh, what an amazing thing to follow. But I don't know if he could have kept up with it.
Well, he also, and I don't know that he'd love me sharing this, but he told me that she was tough. She was difficult. And he said Madonna got nothing on her. You know, she was tough. And I don't know if it was because of her mom or what, but apparently it wasn't the easiest situation to work in. Uh, so,
I saw yesterday, the day before, she's the first entertainer to become a billionaire by entertainment alone, not investing money that they made in the entertainment, but by just entertainment alone.
damn, that's
The
incredible.
first.
In not
What is,
that many years, really.
no kidding. No
Yeah.
kidding.
That's wild. And, that's a phenomenon. Like, she's gone beyond being a performing artist or whatever. It's a phenomenon. It's like that Justin Bieber thing that happened for a while, and except way bigger. Michael
Way bigger.
Jackson. Yeah, it's that phenom sort of area. And it'll burn out. I mean, at some point, I'm guessing that her massive, whatever they call them, Swifties, will either move on to the next thing or something. Like, I just can't imagine she's going to be this big forever. Maybe she is. Maybe I'm wrong. But it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to see, and just the numbers that are being generated out there, not just by her, but in general by touring, is just crazy, mind blowing.
Tickets. I pulled up a flyer the other day, and it was Atlanta Rhythm Section. It was 50-year anniversary of the Von Braun Civic Center here in Huntsville, and the first rock concert I was involved in, and the tickets were $4, five at the door,
Oh,
and there was 5,000 people at that show. I remember because I was part of the settlement. So 5,000 times $5 is $25,000. There was four bands, sound, lighting, staging, rental of the building. $25,000 was the total ticket
that's
to get
wild.
in. And isn't that how did that happen?
Yeah.
My buddy was in Memphis for the Beatles when they played there years ago, well, about 50 years ago, and his ticket was $6 to see the Beatles.
Jesus, isn't that incredible? Can you imagine what a
And
Beatles
that
ticket would be today? If like, even if it was just, well, I don't know that you could even do a Beatles reunion with two of them anymore, but if they were alive and they were to come back together and do one show or 10 shows or whatever, I can't even imagine what that number would look like.
no, unbelievable.
People would pay any
So
amount of money, because their fans are all 60-year-old rich people now, or 70-year-old rich people.
well, you know some of the numbers you're hearing from Taylor Swift, $5,000 tickets,
It's
VIP
incredible.
area. I mean, crazy, crazy.
Incredible.
So
Incredible. Well, and it ain't,
thank
ain't
goodness I
even
know
just her.
somebody.
It ain't even just her. It's like, I had Dan Brown from Metallica on the podcast last week. Well, actually, I think it launched today. I think it comes out today. Um, Metallica, if you would have told me in the 70s that Metallica would still be playing in 2024 and one of the biggest bands in the world, if not the biggest band in the world, I would have been like, you're crazy. You're out of your mind. I didn't see Like longevity to me was not something that, went along with Metallica. And it's just unbelievable. They are a machine. That is a massive business, the Metallica machine. You know, it's incredible. And, they're doing stadiums for 2 nights. They'll do 2 nights at the same stadium and sell it out both nights, big time. And they do two different sets on the two different nights so that they're enticing the crazy fans to go to both of them. Go pay. And I don't know how much the tickets cost, but probably on the secondary market, the scalpers or whatever, they're probably $1,000 or more to see Metallica in good seats.
That's crazy.
The money's insane right now. It's so big, and if you listen to Live Nation, it's just going to get bigger. Like they think that for the entertainment value that is being given, they're leaving money on the table. The price is too low for concert tickets right now, and I'm like, what? You got to be kidding me. But they look at the average sticker price on a ticket, and when you talk about average, you're talking, a lot of those are below average. They're in nightclubs or very small theaters or small venues or whatever. And then you've got, the Taylor Swifts and Bruce Springsteens who are $5,000 tickets or whatever. But they're saying the average is, I think, like $65 or something for a concert ticket. I haven't seen any shows that I would like to see that are $65. They're all $100 or more.
Everything.
Yeah.
There is no cheap seats anymore.
No, not
So,
really. Not really. Another one that surprised the hell out of me, and I talk about it often, is Motley Crue doing stadiums and getting $400 for tickets. Again, that just wasn't one that I would have said I saw coming. No way. But hey, God bless. Good luck. Good on them, that they're still able to pull that kind of money.
no kidding.
Yeah.
Times have changed, and that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they sell music anymore, as long as they sell tickets for people to come to the show and give them an experience.
Yeah.
It seems like, I mean, I've been out of this for a few years now, but it seems like all the equipment suppliers are doing very well.
Yeah.
The rental houses putting the gear up there, like you just talked about Mike Cannon's new company.
Mainly.
Sounds
Yeah.
like everybody's busy. They're all
Yeah.
scurrying around looking for more gear right now.
Not as much now. Like it's pretty much since COVID. Like you went through these waves after COVID. The first wave was things started trickling out and opening up in early 21, pretty much. And those people were able to get gear because there was a lot of sellers out there who were willing to, like, even manufacturers had stagnant inventory that they'd been sitting on since early 2020. So they were happy to cut deals to get that stuff out of their warehouse. Rental companies, a lot of them were broken behind with their bank payments and getting hit over the head by the banker, and they couldn't pay their rent and all that stuff. So they were happy to sell off some of their used stuff. So early it was pretty easy, and the prices on used gear were pretty low. But then it started to just get wild, and by the time you got late 21, early 22, it was just gangbusters. It was like, what do you got sitting still? I'll buy them all. How many of those can I get? I'll take them all. And people were just hoarding gear, like just getting whatever they possibly could. And one of the examples I use often is the price of a used Grand MA2 was, during COVID in 2020, was about between 12 and 15,000, depending on where it came from and what kind of condition it was in and stuff. 12 to 15 grand for a old beat up MA2. Those went during 22 and 23 as high as like 35 grand for a used MA2.
Wow.
And today they're hovering around 20
Well,
grand.
see, that's the neat thing about Gear Source. You have that data,
Yeah.
what that gear turns out, and what you can sell it for, what the average price is. I mean, that's some valuable data right there, Marcel.
Yeah, if you can figure out how to get the value out of that, let me know, because I've always wondered, because we have 20 years of that, by the way. We know all the different trends for all the different, like if you asked me, an IntelliBeam, what was pricing like, or a Cyberlight, what was pricing like on a Cyberlight. I could tell you when I started the business, just shortly after, because I wasn't collecting much data in the beginning, but I could tell you how much it was then and what it went down to and how much they are today. And I could show you the line that that trend looked like. And, but yeah, so, you know, so gear by 22 and 23, what was happening is now you had sort of a clashing of all kinds of problems, supply chain problems, um, just capacity problems, like build capacity. You know, companies just couldn't build enough gear to hit this demand that the market suddenly had, and so everybody was trying to ramp up their capabilities to produce product, to build product, but you couldn't be crazy about it because everyone knew that this wasn't a permanent growth spurt in the market. Like it wasn't going to go up by 3x and then stay there. It was going to go up by 3x and then drop back down to maybe 1.2, 1.5x, right? So you didn't want to just go build bigger factories and lots of buildings and all this stuff and invest huge money into it. But but then what's happened? So now things like the MA3 console has like a year back order on it for the most part. Um, Digico consoles, like a lot of the newer Digico consoles, a lot of the big D&B or L acoustic sound systems, line array systems, there's just all kinds of crazy delays, like a year and a half delays on a lot of things. And think of running your company, you know, and you've got to now make a decision, first of all, that I'm going to go spend $2 million on this new speaker system that I got to have. And then they tell you you got to wait a year and a half to get it. So now what do I do? You know, how do you plan for that? How do you work around that kind of stuff? It's really hard. It ain't easy, man.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
That's the thing about business. You're always trying to right size your business, people, you know, equipment, size of infrastructure,
Yeah.
training, everything is you're always right sizing. You're always, you know, trying to look around that corner to see what's next and making sure that when you get around the corner, you're prepared. Business
Yeah.
is tested. Well,
Yeah.
that's what all this data that AI is giving you, getting back to that,
Correct.
giving you that
Yeah.
information to make some of those decisions that, you know, we used to do it, you know, spreadsheet back with
Yeah.
when it was a piece of paper and a pencil.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. It's incredible stuff. But you know, one of the things like you were always sort of you know, in line with like a Bobby Cannon, where you just knew how to buy product, you knew how to rent product, and you knew how to sell it, and you knew when to sell it. And you and Bobby Cannon, I think, were two of the guys who were really good at that. And I think it probably helped to enable you to, you know, to build a really great business that ultimately attracted the likes of a four wall who I'm sure overpaid for your company because knowing you figured that one out too. But but have you ever thought about what that process like that you used to do so well with like high end in particular? You were one of the better high end guys out there who just knew what to buy, when to buy, how much to buy, and when to sell it, and get top dollar for it, and all that kind of stuff. Have you ever thought about what that looks like today? Because like Cyberlight, buy it for 5,000, rent it for 250 a week, and sell it for 4,500 or whatever, right? Today, you know, fixture A, fixture X, whatever it is, it doesn't even matter, is $12,000. You rent it for 150 or $200 and you sell it for $5,000. Uh, it's just a whole different thing. And you need, by the way, you used to need 24 of those to put out a country act. Now you need 400 or 600 of them.
That's right. You know, the relationship I had with high end, I couldn't duplicate with other manufacturers. Um, they needed, they needed me, us, and we needed them. It was a very good relationship. So, you know, trying to make use all the angles. You had depreciation, you had the rental income, and you had selling used equipment. There's a fine line between when to do that and when not to do that.
Yeah.
If you do it too soon, you lose income. I tried to be cutting edge with a lot of that stuff, and because of that, I'd get a special deal. After high end kind of lost their uh, their way there for a while, it was hard to get that relationship with any other manufacturer. Fairlight
Yeah.
wouldn't play that way.
Hmm.
Some of the European companies wouldn't play that way. So it was you had to reinvent it, and then you had to make it just on rentals and depreciation. It was
Yeah.
sell it for a little bit more than what your book value is and move on.
Yeah.
And if you hold a piece of gear too long, you throw it in the dumpster.
Yeah.
I mean, we also cyber lights. People were just throwing them in the dumpster. It wasn't even worth taking them out of the road box. Just throw them in the dumpster in the road box.
Yeah.
What do you do with them? They won't rent. Um, so it's a fine line, which is where people like your company came out and got rid of some of that stuff. I don't know where
Yeah.
it all goes. There's you
Well,
probably have a better idea where gear is. It does the United States use gear go to South America or
it's not like
different
that,
places?
really. Yeah, I think it used to be a little bit like that, where you just dumped your garbage into Mexico or South America. But they're very savvy markets now. They're buying cutting edge, latest stuff too. And so they're not just dumping. India, same thing. They've even created laws in some of these countries where you can't dump your used junk into those countries. And so everyone is a lot more cutting edge now. Like, occasionally we'll get somebody who will put 100 Mac 2000s up on the site or whatever. And, if they're $200 each, eventually you're going to find somebody who just goes, yeah, you know what? I can put these things to work in my crappy little market here I'm in or whatever. But for the most part, it's newer gear is what people are looking for. They're not looking for old Cyberlights or old Mac 2000s or old Verilights or whatever. That stuff just gets devalued to a point where it's almost not even worth shipping, because sometimes the shipping is more than the two VL3000s in a flight case or whatever.
You pay 300 for the fixture and the light bulb's 350.
Yeah, yeah,
You
that
know.
happens too. Yeah. Well, and that
Oh,
happened for a long time with like studio colors, used studio colors. The motherboard, you know, if the motherboard went the second week that you had these used studio colors, it was like I don't know what it was, $1,200 or something until Mokri started the light parts thing and got the cheaper versions of them. But it's an interesting market, and anytime I see like people enter the used gear market, and this is by no means patting my own back or anything, but they think it's easy and they don't pay any attention to all that data that goes into it and all that history and experience and knowledge and everything else. We know where all the bodies are buried because we've been doing this over 20 years now, and we've got the data on it. Um, and besides that, if you want to be really successful with used gear, and I tell people this all day, every day, because people now have just gotten lazy and they'll pop it up on Facebook Marketplace or something. And the challenge with that is you're going to sell it to someone who can drive over to your shop and pick it up. If that's what you're aiming to do, then do that. Go ahead, put it on Facebook Marketplace. I'm not adding much value if you're going to sell it to the guy down the street, unless he hates you and he wants to buy it through a third party. Great, I can help you with that. But which I used to always do, by the way, in Vegas when Four Wall and PRG wouldn't do business together. So Canon would come to me and buy 100 lights from PRG, and it was the craziest thing. Like they wouldn't sell them to Canon, but they'd sell them through me to Canon. Okay.
isn't that something?
Yeah. So it's like the magic now is having lots of markets. We do business in over 100 countries today, and
Wow.
so in all kinds of different currencies as well, and we know the taxation laws in all of these different places, and we manage all of that craziness. And so if you want to be able to sell that gear most effectively or efficiently and get the highest cost, it's good to go to a global market, because sometimes, like, I don't know if you remember, but like back probably 20 years ago now, 15 years ago, VL3000s were the hottest thing on the used market. They were selling, like, if you were a good dealer, you could buy them, use them for 6 months and then sell them for more than you paid for them still, or use them for a year and sell them for more than you paid for them. especially into Europe. And it was because of the dollar exchange with the euro, and because it was a US made product and blah, blah, blah. Similar thing right now with MA consoles. We get people buying MA3s in Europe, using them for 6 months, putting them on the used market, and getting what they paid for them, if not a little bit more, selling them into the US. That happens quite often right now.
That's what we used to do with the whole hogs.
Yeah,
You know, they would bring them over high. This was before high end took over. I think it was still when Bobby Gordon was
yeah,
repping.
yeah. By the way,
Uh,
Bob, if you're listening, Dave's really sorry for doing that.
Doing what?
Gray market consoles, bringing in consoles from Europe. He's really sorry, honestly.
No, I mean we would buy from Bobby. That's the point I'm making,
Yeah,
and and use them for 6 months and sell them for a little bit more than he was buying them for.
yeah,
And we were buying them from him. There just wasn't enough product at that point because that was a revolution. The whole hog changed everything.
sure did. Yeah.
Um, and
Well,
and
it
we
it
we
it
had a
changed.
bunch of them in rental.
Yeah. Well, it changed more than just the technology side of it. It created a market for programmers. Prior to that, like prior to the whole hog, you didn't really see moving light programmers getting 250, $300 a day. Like that didn't
Mm-mm.
really happen. Uh, Certainly some very specific ones, Virtuoso, or was it Virtuoso? Yeah, or Artisan or
Icon,
whatever.
icon,
Icon,
whatever
yeah.
whatever Verilight had, and
Yeah, some of those specialty guys and stuff, but it created this whole market for whole hog programmers. And I know, 10 of these guys, 15, 20 of these guys who created really great careers just from going, hey, I can figure this thing out and learn how to do it. And they were nightclub guys or whatever, and suddenly they were moving light programmers and made careers from that. So yeah, that was a cool moment. But I guess the question I was asking, like, could you imagine the differences in running your business today with the economy of the business today? And so, more income on the income side because it's so batshit crazy busy out there and stuff, but a hell of a lot more resources to commit on the other end as well. Like, I mean, is it a business that'd still make a lot of sense to jump into today? I don't know.
well, I used to tell people we weren't in the lighting business. We were in the asset management business and banking. I mean, if I
Yeah.
didn't have a good relationship with my bank and call them up and say, look, I need 100 grand. I'm gonna buy some lights for XYZ tour, and he would say, okay, come get the money. Uh, if I had to go through Mother May I, financial statements, the whole bit, every single time I did that, I couldn't move as fast as I needed to
Yeah.
move.
Yeah.
In some of these deals, they say, well, what if the tour flops? I said, well, then they'll chop it up and rent it to other people.
Yeah.
It took a while to train the bank to understand the business, and if they didn't get beat and we both did what we agreed to do, it was a good relationship.
Yeah.
And had to work with some of these manufacturers. Look, I can't pay you in 30 days, but I'm pretty sure I can pay you in 90 days.
Yeah.
And they would work with
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
I
They
don't know
wanted
if those
business.
same relationships are going on now, but I would think so.
They are. Yeah, they
Um,
are.
it kind of has to be.
Yeah.
So,
No, but I mean that number has just the baseline has shifted so much now because that 100 grand is now maybe 2 million,
that's
or
right.
whatever that number is today. So it's a lot more information they're going to want from Mr. Millie to hand you the 2 million that you need to go buy that gear than it was for the 100,000. No
Yeah, we
problem.
we would do I obviously didn't have that turned off. Um, we technology. I don't know what to turn on and turn off, man. I got
It's
too
all
many
good.
buttons here.
It's all good.
Um, but the relationship with banking, I mean, it's they say, well, I'm going to give credit to you, David Milley, but who the hell is Brad Paisley, and does he pay his bills? I said, well, I signed a contract with him saying he will. I said, what if his record stinks and it doesn't do any good? Well, there's a risk thing all the way up and down that food chain. We're all in this together, or not. And it took a minute to get those relationships, but I would think that was one of the things that made us strong was banking relationships, and that we treated it as a, a real business, not a lighting company.
Yeah.
We could have been it could have been scaffolding, it could have been wheelbarrows we were renting, like an Ace Hardware kind of rental store, and approached it the same way. They seem to make better money return than some of the lighting product. I think some people put lighting, or did in the old days. They would put it out there just so they could say they did Brad Paisley's lighting, not making money doing it.
Oh,
And if that helped them with
that
other
was
customers, it was
that was extremely common, and it still happens today. Like, especially, some of the larger companies occasionally will say we got to have this deal, at all costs or whatever. And
that's
that's
right.
really hurt some companies along the way too. Going after a deal that they probably shouldn't have taken, and it cost them millions of dollars and hurt them bad. But
Well, there's ways to get in there and then spell out your contract in detail, and then say, well, if you want to make changes, this is what happens, and it's kind of don't get caught more than a couple of times, or you will be out of business.
yeah,
So
yeah,
there's education on the whole thing.
yeah,
But we like I said, we weren't really a lighting company at some point. We didn't do designs. We were just an asset manager.
yeah,
That's what we did.
yeah. But
Move a gear around.
do you think though, like, knowing what you know, and you ran your business for a number of years, but today, do you think you could compete as like a quote mom and pop, or would you have to be a private equity backed business that has access to quick and relatively painless capital, um, or flexible capital, or whatever you want to call it?
I don't think I don't a mom and pop thing could do local business, little regional business, but I don't think you could do global business without doing it the way you just described. I
Yeah,
mean, I missed opportunities to take Nashville acts to Europe or something, and I couldn't pull that off because I didn't have an office over
yeah,
there. And those that did could pull that off, and if you did not have that kind of relationship or knowledge or understanding or reach, I didn't have the reach. And
yeah,
I think people that are in the top echelon of the entertainment business, they need that reach, and
yeah,
without it, you can't do it. I mean, uh, PRG was kind of the first really global equipment person.
yeah,
They were everywhere, and because of that, they got that business that nobody
yeah.
else could touch.
Hmm.
So
But I mean, I guess the question answers itself, because if you look at all the biggest companies, PRG, Four Wall, Solotech, Christie, uh, basically all of them. And Solotech, I had Mickey Kirbishley on a couple weeks ago, and he said, "No, we're not private equity backed," but in a sense, I guess he's right, because it's a private individual, Bronfman, but to me that's private equity backed. You're backed by a
sure,
very deep pocket investor, is your main owner or whatever. And but if you're not private equity backed, I think you're really going to struggle to get some of these big national, or like you said, international touring acts. And there's some exceptions like Bandit, Upstaging, Premier Global. There are still some really large touring companies, and Upstaging obviously being the standout that they are. They're just an incredible company, still one of the best lighting companies in the world probably, and somehow managed to, like you, but then they scaled a lot bigger, I guess. But they managed to build a very competitive lighting company without having to bring in money from private equity. And so, yeah, it's interesting because
well, did upstaging as an example, did trucking build lighting or did lighting build trucking?
it's a great example.
You know,
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, it's a good question.
it,
They're
it
both
kind of
pretty
came, it kind
successful.
of, they both of them were really successful.
Yeah, yeah. But, talk about assets. Like, okay, we need some new trucks. How much is a truck, and how long does it take to get one, and blah 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 blah, right? Like, These are such big businesses now with such big numbers that you got to write checks for and stuff. It's scary. It's a wacky business now. Like you got to, it's definitely beyond my financial skills to think like some of these, Robert Carone or just any of these big time guys who are sitting in those positions going, okay, we need $100 million in capex over the next 2 years or whatever. How are we going to manage that? And it's like, whoa,
There, I'm back. We're
cool,
charging.
cool. So, you've been fixing up your house.
Well, we moved into a fixer upper and spent like 2 years painting and scraping and making it ours. And we're pretty much done now. I got some landscaping to do.
You did it
So,
yourself?
'cause you always have something in a house.
You did it all yourself, or
Oh, no, 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 no. We hired contractors.
so did you have to move out every time they were doing big stuff, or
Well, when we first bought it, we lived in our RV for like 3 months, and then
okay,
we did the master bedroom area, and then we moved into it while they were doing the rest of the house. Yeah, you'd wake up, there'd be 8 people walking around painting and scraping, putting
yeah,
up gutters and that kind of thing, and that went on for almost 2 years. Like I said, it was a real fixer upper, but it's turned out nice. You need to come visit.
I'd love to. Yeah, I don't. You know what? I'm in the middle of trying to make a big life decision on whether I should drive up to my house in Canada this year or fly like I normally do. And last year I sort of did a hybrid. I shipped my car to Chicago and then drove from Chicago. I went and visited some friends along the way, but drove from Chicago up to my house in Alberta. And that worked out really well, because it's about a 20 hour drive or 22-hour drive or something from Chicago, which, that's a couple of long days, but not that terrible. And it was okay. Um, but we're thinking about doing the whole drive this year, like driving all the way from here up to Alberta, which is around 40 hours of driving. And if we do, I'll definitely plan to come through Alabama. So that'd be the beginning of June.
Well, Nashville's right. We're 90 miles from Nashville,
Yeah, yeah.
real close.
But I'd figure out how to map it so I could come by and sit down and have a couple of beverages and some barbecue and then get the hell back on the road.
There we go.
That'd be fun. Yeah. Are you playing a bunch of golf still?
I, I play 2 or 3 times a week if the weather permits.
Yeah.
I don't seem to be getting any better, and I don't seem to be getting much worse. So I do enjoy it.
Yeah, I was mentioned in the intro that your new occupation is stealing money from your golf buddies in bets. So,
Yeah, that's my part-time job right now.
yeah.
Playing golf.
Yeah. I remember you used to be a big runner, right?
I did. I have a knee problem now, so I don't do very much of that. I do bike riding some, but
Yeah.
yeah, I ran a few marathons, and when I lived in Nashville, I ran the Nashville Half Marathon, which was a fun event. They had a band about every mile set up on a little stage, so as you ran with 5,000 people, they had entertainment through the whole city. It was fun, a lot
Yeah.
of fun.
Yeah. The reason I remember you're a runner is the weirdest reason, and you're going to laugh when I tell you this story, but you and I ended up on the same golf foursome at an LDI event or an industry event, call it. And I think it might have been LDI, and it might have been the Alice Cooper one even. And there was a sponsor or something, like a whole sponsor there or something, who was selling technical socks. And
Yeah, I remember that.
I didn't even know there was such a thing. And ended up in the golf cart with you for, I don't know, 3 holes probably, getting a full on education on technical socks for running and how people get injuries because of the socks they wear and stuff. And I don't know why I never forgot that conversation, but every time I try to go running, I'm like, oh, gotta get some good socks. I gotta get the right socks. David told me. So,
Well, I remember a little bit more about that, but I didn't think it was they were stagehand socks, and I ordered some and put the name of the company on them and gave socks to people. It was almost cheaper than a golf shirt or something,
Uh,
and people wanted them. I mean, they were just chomping at the bits to get two or three pairs of socks because everybody needed them, right?
yeah, yeah,
And if I remember, they were made very very well. They supported you in arch
yeah.
support or whatever, so
Yeah. One,
there
there was
was
a
something
left and a
to it.
right. Like I never even saw socks that had a left and a right. And I think those ones had a left and right.
They
Uh,
did, they did,
yeah.
they sure did.
Yeah. And I
Uh,
got a full on education on socks though on the golf course, which was fun. And you won't remember this, but I remember because it haunted me for it's probably why I quit playing golf altogether. Not to mention my terrible swing and bad attitude, but um, we were on the 18th green, and of course everyone's there, right? And I got to hit the putt to, I don't know, win the hole or win a bet or something. I don't remember what it was. And all the upstaging guys were standing right there. And they were like, Marcel, I'll bet you $50 you can't hit this. And like everybody's throwing money at me to hit this putt. And I probably missed it by like frigging 2 feet or something. Like it was so bad. The putt was so bad. I was so nervous and probably half drunk by then too. But
Probably.
I remember that last putt. It was just brutal, and I missed it. So
I miss those golf tournaments. That was always fun at LDI. Those were
yeah.
fun.
Why don't you go into an LDI and play in the golf tournament just
Well,
for something to do?
I've been to a couple of them. I had one of the things I did in Anaheim. I guess that
That would have
was
been
not
Nam.
LDI. It was, what's the other one?
Nam.
NAM.
Yeah.
I went to the NAM one and
You got
presented
an award,
Jonathan
right?
Smeaton with
Oh.
his Parnelli
Oh,
Award
right.
that
Yeah,
year.
yeah,
That
yeah.
was fun.
Yeah.
Went out and saw a bunch of people. Same faces, a lot of the same faces.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess once you get in this industry, you can't get out. You're
Yeah,
stuck.
it's a disease. You get stuck with it for sure. Yeah, no, it's that I actually missed LDI last year. I think it was either the first or second one since the very beginning of LDI that I missed. And I thought, it's no big deal. I don't need to be at it. And I was knee deep in fixing a couple of big problems. And I was just dying the whole time because everybody was putting on social media that it was the best show ever and what a great show and all this killer new technology. And everybody was just so pumped about it. And I was like, damn it. And so I'm definitely going this year. But you should go. You should go and just play in the golf tournament and just say hi to people.
I'll do it.
Yeah, that'd be fun. So, what is this Repo Man story? I'm sure I've heard it.
Repo Man.
Yeah.
So I don't know where that came from, but somebody said that it's some TLS lore. Jessica Laney, that used to work for me, who now works for a while in Nashville, tells a story, which means it keeps on coming up. Years ago, we did a comedy club in Birmingham, Alabama, and put a dimming and control system in lighting package. And let's say it's 20 grand. Can't remember all the details about it. So they give us $5,000 and we get all the stuff ordered, we get it installed, and they owe us 15 grand. They said, well, we don't have the money, but we've got a bunch of shows coming up that will pay you. So, 2 months later, we hadn't got any more money. It's Christmas. Um, I know that they're selling tickets because they have an online site where you can see how many seats are sold and that kind of thing. So I called him up. I said, "Well, I need some money." He said, "Oh, well, we're going to sell all these shows out. We've got like 3 or 4 shows in a row sold out." So anyway, they're just playing me along. Uh, so I get in the car. I drive to Birmingham. It's about 100 miles, and I get there at like 9 o'clock in the morning, and I knock on the door. The people, the cleanup crews, they're cleaning up. I said, "Oh, I'm with TLS. I'm here to work on that lighting console. That thing broke last night, and they wanted me to come in here early." So I'm talking to the cleanup crew. So they let me in, take me to the control room, and I take the control board, I open the dimmer rack, and I pull a fuse or two out, close it all back up, and I walk out. I said, "Yeah, I'm gonna run this over to my shop and work on it, and I'll be back in about an hour." So I put it in my car. I drive it to the shopping center about a half a mile away, and then I walk back. I said, "Gentlemen, call the police. Your console just got stolen, and you're not going to have a show tonight because you don't have any lighting in the whole auditorium. Uh, I got your control console."
Nice
So
one.
they said, "Well, you can't do that." I said, "Well, call your attorney, call the police." I said, "I don't have any money to pay my employees Christmas bonuses or year-end bonuses, so I might as well spend it in jail." And about 2 hours later, all the owners were there. Their lawyer was there. The police was sitting in the car out front. Nobody did anything. And they said, "Well, how much do you need?" I said, "Well, you owe me 15 grand. How about half of it?" So I counted out $7,500. I wanted cash. They gave me 7,500. I went over, walked back to my car, drove it over, put their console back in, and then drove home. I never saw the other 7,500, but I did get that much. And
Oh
then
my
when it
God.
went into bankruptcy, about 9 months later, that same lawyer that was their lawyer was representing them in the bankruptcy, made sure that nobody else bid on the gear. I bought my own gear back, and I think ended up selling it to like the Tupelo Little Theater or something
Oh my
later
God.
on.
That's a
So,
crazy story.
well, that's not the way you collect on unpaid bills, though.
Yeah.
I could have really gone to jail for that, but it worked.
Well,
So
you also could have, things could go bad. Like you never know who these owners are sometimes, and sometimes they're sketchy characters and, you
like
put them out of
yeah,
business
they
for
could
a
have locked
night
me in
and
a
they,
room and started torturing me.
correct. Yeah. Bad things could happen. So it's probably, I know people who have done that many, many times. We used to, when I did club installs and stuff, we used to make it real easy for us to go in and shut off the system. This was before you could actually remotely log into a system or anything. But we made it real easy so that we could shut them down if we needed to get paid. And but this was in Canada. Like in Canada, most people paid you. You didn't have a real problem getting paid usually.
Well, this you'd have to do a equipment lien and all this, and it would take months and months. It still took months to get the remainder of the money, and they did come out ahead a little bit at the end, but it took a year or so, a year and a half to make it all happen. I
Yeah.
try not to get in a situation like that, but you know, it's business. You can't help it.
You know
You
what?
know,
One of the weirdest deals you and I ever did was you sold a lighting package to the Grand Biloxi Casino, and it got swamped and flooded in one of the hurricanes
that's right. That's right.
and completely destroyed. And so it was going through legal stuff, and eventually the insurance company hired a salver to get rid of, so that they could tear the building down, basically. And so the salver got in touch with me somehow, and I had a company in partnership with a local production company here where we would buy inventory from like somebody going out of business or whatever, like that deal that you did when you bought your own gear back. We'd buy stuff like that and then clean it up and put it for sale on Gear Source. And we don't do it anymore, but I did this in the past. And so the salver said, "Hey, we need you to come in and take a look and just make us an offer, and we'll give you 1 day of daylight to get everything you can out of the building." And so we sent a crew up there to. Well, actually, my partner went first and just took a look to see how difficult it was going to be and how much stuff he felt like could be pulled out of there. And him and I talked a lot while he was there, and he's like, "Well, I could take this, but it's going to take 2 hours probably to just get it disconnected or whatever, or I could take this in 5 minutes and it's not worth as much money, but let's maybe." So we started looking at the whole thing, saying, "We'll start here, we'll take this, and if we've still got time, we'll take this," right? Well, anyways, one of the things we got was like, I think it was 36 VL3000s, washes and spots. And
Right.
and remember, this place not only had the back wall been blown out and it was now water coming in and rain and storm and everything else, but it had sat there for a few months since the hurricane while insurance companies and stuff fought with lawyers. And so we didn't know how good or bad the stuff was. We basically had all these Verilites sitting on the floor of the shop. We hadn't had time to look at them yet, and you made me an offer to buy them all. And so, just guessing on the math, you probably sold them to them for $7,500, $8,000. You bought them from me, I think, for 2 grand each or something for the whole lot. I remember you telling me, you sent me a message or something, and you said, "Hey, thanks for that deal. I used all but like 4 of them on a show this weekend." Like 3 days after they arrived at your shop or whatever, you were able to put them all out on a show. Long story short, you came back to me, I don't know, a year later or whatever, and we resold those lights, and I think you got like 3,500, 4 grand each for them. So that probably worked out to be a pretty good deal for you in the
It,
end.
it, it was actually the Beau Rivage, and the whole back wall of the stage was blown out. I think
Yeah.
that was Katrina. And you're
Yeah, I
right,
think
that
it was
stuff just
Katrina.
hung in there for almost a year or 6 months anyway before the stuff was taken down. Some
Yeah.
of it was pretty rough.
Yeah.
Uh, the salt air and copper don't like each other, and the salt air starts to corrode on it. But we took every single one of them apart, cleaned them up, the control boards and stuff. Some of them were rusted or corroded, but that's the business we were in is keeping moving lights working. And
Yeah.
I had the people, the trained people, the parts. And it was a product that we had a bunch of already, so it worked.
Yeah, yeah. No, that was an interesting deal, and there was a VDOS sound system in there, an L Acoustics VDOS sound system that I sold to Greg at Clearwing, like I don't know, a week after this whole deal went down, and it ended up being a pretty good deal for us, but it was also a really good deal for all of the people that we sold all of the big lots of stuff to right in the beginning because they all did really well on it. I think I actually resold that sound system for Greg as well. So
Well, there you
and
go. If you can
and it
sell
all
something two or
totally
three
worked.
times, you got to make money on it.
It all totally worked too. Like even all the amp racks, all the amps were good, and like the stuff was only, as I recall, it was only like 6 months old or something when the hurricane hit that place.
They had a whole bunch of LED battens, and I don't remember the brand or whose they were, but I promise you, they weren't 3 months old, and they
Yeah,
had like 20 of them. LED battens about 3 foot long. Uh,
I don't remember
Fred
those.
McKees, I bought them from Fred McKeesey at
Yeah,
I can't remember his company.
yeah, theatrical something. I know who
I
you're
think I
talking.
got his last name right.
Oh,
Fred McKeesky.
oh no, I know who you're
Kiska.
talking about. Yeah. Anyways, move on. Two old guys trying to remember somebody's company
Trying to
name.
remember. I know.
Yeah.
It's rough.
But that was just a wacky, interesting deal, and again, where everyone won. Like I like deals where everybody wins. I guess the insurance company didn't win, but everybody else won. So yeah, but it was just nutty because literally we got like about 12 hours of daylight to rip out everything we could, and it was a nasty environment because again there was mold and
Where where did you get the crew to go in there and get the stuff out?
from down here, my partner, through my partner down here, uh, we sent a crew up from down here, so they drove a truck up there, and it might have even been 2 trucks if I remember, um,
Yeah, I
and
remember
just
I flew into Miami and rented a rider, a little cube truck. Went to your place, I guess, in Fort
his
Lauderdale.
place, yeah, his place, yeah, yeah,
His place. That's right.
yeah,
Looked it over and said, "I'll take that. And let's go."
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it was great. It was fun. Well, I don't know. You got anything else? Did I miss anything? Did we forget to talk about anything?
No, that we can say publicly, probably not. I think we've talked through it.
Well, you
Thank you
know
for
what?
inviting me, and I just
Anytime.
wanted to say one thing that you doing these webinars with all these different people uh, has put the history of our industry so that people can see what it took to get where we are. And I do respect you greatly for having taken the time and vision to put it all together.
Well,
Good
thank you so
job,
much.
Marcel.
Thank you so much for saying that because that really is what it's about. It's about recording all of these amazing, wonderful, incredible people so that they're not forgotten and so that there is some history and there is a record, including myself. Like, I'm not going to be here forever. So, at some point, my grandkids or something are going to be listening to all this stuff going, our granddad was such an idiot, and you know what? To them right now, here's one of these. Here you go for calling your granddad an idiot. But no, I appreciate you saying that. I got to tell you, I'm a fan as much as I'm a part of it. So I love the stories. Like, I got to tell you, still probably my number one favorite story ever was when Jonathan told me the smoke on the water story. Like, still when I tell people that story, I get goosebumps because that's how I felt right at that moment when he told me, and it started hitting me, going, "Wait a sec, where are you going with this?" And then boom, he comes out and says it, and I was like, "You got to be kidding me! You were there, you know, for that song, for what that song was written about. That's the first song I ever played on a guitar, along with 99% of other musicians out there, right?"
Wow.
So,
Cool.
yeah, stories like that, and your story, and just how businesses were built out of nothing in this industry without a bunch of cash, without a great plan necessarily. It was just out of passion. It was like, hey, I love, you know, live music, or I love live events, or I love lighting, or I love, the artistry of all of this, and I just want to be a part of it. And that turned into a business, and it's not for money usually. It's usually for other reasons. And so yeah, I appreciate you saying that because it really is what this is all about. I'm certainly not getting rich off of it. So 230 something episodes now, and I've enjoyed almost
That
all of
blew me
them.
away when your new lady uh, told me that that
Sarah.
was 230 something episodes. That's amazing, Marcel.
Yeah, I
I didn't
think
know there was that many people in our industry.
it's true, huh? Your original one was number, I think 14 is what I said earlier.
14 or 15, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was episode 14, and that was, I think Henry was still with me at that point. And uh, so, yeah, no, it's fun. I'm glad you took the time to do it. Maybe when Jonathan's back staying with you, we'll do another one with the three of us or something.
All right, sounds good. Looking
All right,
forward
my
to it.
friend.
Anyway,
Thank you so
good
much.
job. Thank you so much.
All right, buddy. Have a great day.
All right.